Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and in a video I made, someone came in, one of these fanboys, a video I made where I stated, as a generally accepted fact, this isn't even subject to debate in the athletic world, that athletes who eat before they train, who, don't train fasted, can usually perform a little better. They're usually a little stronger. They can usually do a little more work. They have a higher work capacity. This is generally accepted in every sport around the world, including weightlifting and Olympic lifting. This is not a controversial statement. Yet someone comes in and says, oh yeah, well, Martin Berkhan trains fasted. Are you saying he's weak? You're saying he's weak. Fucking fanboys. Jesus Christ. Let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing. Work on skilling up my crafting a little bit and let's talk about this. Fanboys in the whole fitness game are actually worse than another group. Like I used to think hunters and gun guys, because I am a gun guy, were like the worst. Until I got to the fitness world, because with them, you can be sitting around talking with some elk hunters and you can mention to them, that, well, the 300 Win Mag is probably better for shooting elk at long distance than a 30-06. It shoots flatter, it has a little more energy, push the same 180 grain bullet about 300 feet per second faster. And they will chime in and inform you of the fact that the 30-06 killed over 100,000 men in World War II and that they have personally killed 5 elk with it. Are you saying it's weak? You're saying it's a weak bullet. When you're not saying that at all, it's provable. It's generally accepted that 30-06 is a full powered round. 300 Win Mag is stronger. Fanboys in the training world are fucking worse than that. They won't even defend something, their personal choice. When you say something that disagrees with something that someone else says, they're automatically stupid, they're automatically weak. No, I said you can train harder if you eat first. That doesn't mean Martin Berkhan doesn't have reason for doing it. But this is generally an accepted fact. I almost feel like if I came in and told people, hey, people who take anabolic steroids can usually lift a little more weight. They're usually a little stronger than if they don't take steroids, right? Most people would say, yeah, that makes sense. And so, sure enough, someone will come along and tell you, oh yeah, well, I have a friend. I know a guy. I worship a guy on the internet who can bench press 400 pounds and he doesn't use steroids. Are you saying he's weak? No, motherfucker. I'm saying if he can bench 400 natural, if he started taking a handful of Anadrol before he did his bench press sessions every time, he'd probably be benching 450 within 6 months. That's what I'm fucking saying. I'm not saying he's weak. Just like I'm not saying Martin Berkhan is weak. People come up with these crazy ideas that, you throw out stuff that's not controversial. In what fucking world do we live in where it's a controversial statement to say that athletes can train harder when they eat first? You go try to train fasted in any professional sport where a 0.5% difference means the difference between losing a $5 million contract or not, and see how fast you get fucking cut from your team. You try to do that as an Olympic lifter when you're competing for a medal and see how fast your coach slaps the fuck out of you for showing up training fasted when he's trying to prepare you to compete in the Olympics. Watch how fast that happens. What I'm saying is there is a performance advantage. This is not a controversial statement. This isn't even subject to fucking debate. Yet people want to debate these things. That's the craziness in the online fitness world, the bodybuilding world, all that. They actually want to argue about shit that's considered to be fact in the rest of the sports world that's pretty well understood. They actually want to argue about it because someone advocates it. Well, here's the thing, guys. Martin Berkhan's not weak. He's a pretty strong fucking dude. I think we all can agree on that. He's a decently strong guy. But the difference is Martin is also talking about a method of eating to stay lean year-round. Martin is all about using methods to get people's appetites in control, their intake in control, so that they can stay relatively lean. He's focused upon lean gains. Lean gains are not easy to do. And in fact, it is generally understood. Ask any expert out there. I've even seen Dr. Mike Israetel talk about this at length, that people who want lean gains, that they're not willing to gain fat, to gain muscle, need to understand that they're going to gain a hell of a lot less muscle per year. All right, they are going to gain far less muscle per year once they're out of their noob phase if they want to make purely lean gains. It could be a third, it could be a fourth of what they might otherwise gain. So when someone who has a training method that is geared around making lean gains, their methods are never geared around maximum gains. How could they be? You can't gain maximum muscle while gaining no body fat. All right, that's not how it works for naturals. It doesn't work that way for drug-free people. Every expert understands that. Not saying you can't gain muscle. Martin clearly knows how to gain muscle. His people gain muscle. People use his methods and gain muscle without fat. No one is saying they're not gaining muscle or they're not gaining strength. They clearly are. But they are obviously not gaining muscle at the maximum possible rate. And accordingly, his methods aren't geared around training at the maximum possible rate or stimulating maximum possible muscle growth. They're geared around how much muscle growth can I stimulate in an environment where no fat is gained. And actually what he does is reasonable for that. Martin also trains with fairly low volume, with very efficient training, meaning you're in the gym to maximize as much muscle growth as you can get in the shortest time possible. The reason, because he has people restricting calories, he has people doing fasted training, things like that. Obviously, they can't come in and do very high volumes of training. They don't have the food intake for it. They don't have the recovery for it. And that's okay. The amount of training he has people do is efficient. And for people who are doing fasted training, the workloads are acceptable. He's not trying to push out high workload training. That wouldn't work fasted. People are going to run out of steam very quickly. He's having people come in and say, okay, what can we do to actually stimulate muscle growth without overeating? And that ends up being almost a form of HIIT training he has people doing. It's a very, very similar concept. You come in and you put in a maximum amount of workload, a maximum amount of workload density with a lot of tension and minimal metabolic fatigue, and you get the hell out of the gym because you don't have the fuel reserves. You're not sitting there eating huge amounts of carbs before you train. You don't have a caloric surplus. You can't play around in the gym, and that's why he has people avoid fuck-around-itis. Fuck-around-itis can work fine to some extent if you're willing to eat enough, but when you're in just wasting calories and stimulating minimal muscle growth, it's not going to work. He has people come in and be very, very efficient, but his workouts are not maximum muscle growth stimulating workouts. They're good muscle growth stimulating workouts. People will absolutely gain muscle with what he has them doing. They're not going to gain maximum muscle, but that's okay because the diet isn't geared towards maximum muscle. But for a lot of people, that's okay. If your goal is to say, okay, I know I can't gain muscle at the fastest rate possible, but I want to make good, reasonable muscle gains while staying lean, then his methods are going to work. They clearly work. But to come in and say that, oh, you know, because he says he must be stupid, he's doing things wrong. No, Martin isn't trying to stimulate maximum growth through training. He's not coming in having people push maximum workloads, maximum tonnage. That's not what he's about. His methods are a viable method for people who want to gain muscle while staying lean. That's what they are. There's a difference between that and saying, hey, what's the most muscle I could possibly gain? Enormous difference. Enormous difference. And that's kind of the point. Look at the training. It's generally only about 2 exercises and about 3 working sets. Usually, if I recall, it's like a double drop set with a couple of big compound movements every time you train. That doesn't take a lot of training fuel, and that's kind of the point. That's how people can get away with doing that fasted, and that's okay. It's not an unreasonable method because the whole point is the fasted, intermittent fasting, as people do, is a method of caloric control to keep your appetite in check. All right, and keeping your appetite in check is how you stay lean. This is all about body composition. It's not about maximum gains. And people need to understand that. They need to understand that. Because it still comes down to, it is still an accepted fact you can train harder if you eat some carbs first. If you come in and train not fasted and you eat properly, a proper food to fuel your training, you're going to be able to train harder, you're going to be able to train longer. All right, that is not even subject to debate. And you know what? The thing is, even if someone only gains 50% of the possible muscle they could gain every year, but they're doing it in a manner that involves lifting very heavy weight, doing big heavy compounds, actually caring about getting stronger, then of course they're going to get strong. Martin's been working out for like a decade, been lifting heavy weight for a decade. Of course the guy's going to be fucking strong. That's how it works. You put in enough years under the iron and you focus on lifting heavy weight, doing heavy deadlifts, doing heavy dead hang weighted chin-ups, yeah, you're going to get pretty strong. And that's exactly what he's done. You know, but here's the thing. If you come in and we say, hey, you know, if you do this method, you would probably gain 1%, 2%, 3% more strength. That doesn't mean that someone who does the opposite is automatically weak. It's just like my other example. We also know that if you use steroids before you train, you will probably get stronger than a natural person. That doesn't mean that every natural person is weak. I mean, this absurd logic that people have when they latch on to people and they become fanboys is just ridiculous, guys. Come on, we don't we don't need this level of thinking. This sort of stupidity that people come up with and the way that they behave around this stuff, that's part of the reason people think meatheads are all fucking stupid. Stop and think about that. A lot of people fit the stereotype, and it's really bad with the fanboys out there. It's just they lose the ability to think critically. As soon as someone says anything that disagrees with someone they follow, someone they admire, someone they're a fan of, someone they respect, that as soon as you disagree with them, it has to become a personal attack. They have to personally attack you, or that you're personally attacking their person. No, guys, it's just a disagreement of information. Or it may not even be a disagreement of information. It's a difference of opinion based upon context. Contextual differences. It doesn't even mean that both people are wrong. Both people can actually be right in their individual context while disagreeing on the application. It's not a personal attack to disagree with someone. When someone disagrees with someone that you're a fan of, it is not a personal attack against that person. People need to learn to let go of that shit. The internet brings out the worst in people, the stupidity in people. And this fitness community is just as bad as any other about it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.